Chapter 681. Chao Yuan escapes trouble. Pure Land. Qingyu, the oracle envoy, has left. Dressed in a blue bathrobe, Jiang Er floated to Qingyu's side. Sitting down with a smile, her voice transmitted through the Bluetooth headset into Qingyu's ear. They couldn't breach the automatic defense system, so of course they had to leave, and Qingyu slowly placed a piece on the chessboard, smiling as he spoke. It seems this round is mine to win. From now on, this big flying saucer will be under the surname N. Huh. Isn't it Jiang? Close enough. Anyway, those with the surname Jiang still listen to those with the surname N. Hearing this, Qingyu smiled gently. After a moment he stood up, brushed off the dust from his clothes and walked toward the prison area. Let's go, first rescue Chao Zai and fulfill the promise I made to him. Okay. The two arrived at Chao Yuan's cell door. Jiang Er simply waved her hand, and the heavy cell door opened automatically. The light from the corridor spilled into the dark cell, illuminating Chao Yuan's face. The sudden bright light made Chao Yuan a bit uncomfortable. He squinted, peering through the crack to see the two familiar figures, and he let out a slight sigh of relief. So soon? Wasn't it supposed to be 3 days? I always like to prepare for the worst. 3 days is a conservative estimate. And Qingyu smiled as he entered the cell, pulling out a black scalpel from his pocket. A glint of sharpness flashed at the tip of the knife as he crouched in front of the heavy black chains, analyzing their structure while cutting through the chains, as if performing a precise, large-scale surgery. Did you really kill all the oracle envoys? Chao Yuan couldn't help but ask. Kill them all? I don't have that kind of ability, and Qingyu shook his head. I just stole their home and kept them out. Chao Yuan. Chao Yuan stared at Qingyu for a moment, a bitter smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. When we return to Daxia, if you don't become the vice-captain of our team, I won't agree to it first. Upon hearing this, Jiang Er beside him shook her head seriously, her mouth moving as if she said something, but Chao Yuan didn't catch a single word. Forget it, you don't have a Bluetooth headset. And Qingyu seemed to remember something and pulled out a small Bluetooth speaker from somewhere, placing it on the ground. After a faint sound of electric current, Jiang Er's voice came through again. I'm the first one who won't agree. You can only be second. Jiang Er looked into Chao Yuan's eyes and said earnestly. Chao Yuan glanced at the Bluetooth speaker on the ground, then at the Bluetooth headset hanging from Qingyu's ear, his expression seeming a bit subtle. Are we using a private channel now? Whispering. Usually it's just the two of us. In a place like this, it's not convenient to speak out loud, so using Bluetooth headsets is more appropriate, Qingyu explained. Oh. Chao Yuan's expression remained subtle. Once all the bone-corroding locks were removed, Chao Yuan's body lost its support and fell heavily from mid-air. Qingyu reached out his hands to catch him steadily, cradling him in a princess carry out of the pitch-black cell. These chains had penetrated Chao Yuan's bones for 2 years, continuously corroding his body. Now he couldn't muster any strength at all. Although this action was somewhat humiliating for him, it seemed he had no choice. Your bones and injuries are quite severe, and these chains scraped off some bone fragments while piercing your body, which are embedded inside and need to be surgically removed. Qingyu placed him on the makeshift operating table, his gaze sweeping over Chao Yuan's body riddled with bloody holes. Go ahead. Chao Yuan spoke calmly. I trust your skills. There's no anesthetic here. I don't need that kind of thing. Chao Yuan was unconcerned. The pain I've endured over the past 2 years is far worse than this. Qingyu fell silent for a few seconds, not speaking, but quietly took out his surgical knife set, began the disinfection process and then proceeded with the surgery. By the way, how did you end up here? While performing the surgery, Qingyu spoke to distract Chao Yuan. Chao Yuan looked at the light above him. Even as the scalpel cut into his flesh, his expression showed no change as he calmly said. Back when I drifted to this country, I recalled the foreign cultures I learned about before the mist descended at the training camp, speculating that this should be Japan. Although I didn't know why I ended up here, I began to hide my identity as an outsider, gradually learning the language and slowly exploring the situation in this country while traveling around searching for your whereabouts. I probably wandered around for 2 months, during which I encountered some special people, grasped some basic language skills, and learned about the structure and current state of this country. Pure Land, Oracle Envoys and the Katsuzukido. Until one day I confronted an oracle envoy directly. He ordered me to kneel but I didn't, and then we started fighting. And Qingyu raised an eyebrow. This plot was pretty much as he imagined. And then, when you drew your sword, didn't you feel that mysterious gaze upon you? I did, Chao Yuan sighed helplessly. But once I draw my sword and enter that state, it's not something I can easily retract. So I felt that gaze growing stronger, ultimately locking onto me, and then I saw a red beam of light flash by and I lost all consciousness. Red beam of light? Yeah, when I regained consciousness, things were a bit strange. Chao Yuan closed his eyes, recalling the scene he saw at that time. I was in a city called Hachimendai, and when I opened my eyes, I found that the city had completely turned into ruins. As far as I could see, there were broken and chaotic building remnants everywhere. Thick smoke and a stench of blood filled the air, and black flames of malice danced in every corner of the city. At that time, there was a half-black electronic screen above me displaying my wanted notice, with the words, "Extreme Evil," written above my head. In front of me lay 2 broken Oracle Envoy corpses, charred as if they had just self-destructed, and 3 other Oracle Envoys were severely injured and lying on the ground. Only 1 black-robed and 1 white-robed Oracle Envoy stood before me. At that time my body was pierced by chains, surrounded by a prison made of dense black spikes, with a total of 9 layers, and I couldn't move at all. But I remember the way those 2 Oracle Envoys looked at me as if they were staring at some kind of monster. As Chao Yuan spoke, and Qingyu's expression gradually changed. He looked at Chao Yuan with confusion. Extreme evil? Self-destructing and severely injured Oracle Envoys? Are you sure you really don't remember anything? Chapter 682. The Mysterious Fourth Person. I don't remember. When that beam of light descended, I lost consciousness, but... Chao Yuan paused, speaking uncertainly. I felt like something ran out of my body in that instant. And Qingyu began to think seriously. Using the forbidden ruins here would result in being locked onto and killed by that mysterious gaze. If he guessed correctly, that red beam of light was likely the divine punishment used here to kill the owners of the forbidden ruins. Logically, after the beam descended, Chao Yuan should have been reduced to ashes. But why did he not only survive but also heavily injure or even kill several envoys of the divine will? And Qingyu understood very well what being a wanted criminal of the extreme evil level represented. The fact that Chao Yuan could become a criminal of this level indicated that his existence had truly threatened this country. What exactly happened during the time he lost consciousness? Jiang Air, search the database within the Pure Land, and see if there are any video records from 2 years ago in Hachimandai City. And Qingyu pondered for a moment and said to Jiang Air beside him. Okay. Jiang Air nodded, merging into the electronic screen to begin retrieving the database. And you? How did you come to control the entire Pure Land, step by step? Chao Yuan asked curiously. And Qingyu smiled slightly. After Jiang Air and I drifted here, I first conducted a simple experiment on the tolerance rules of the Forbidden Ruins. I didn't expect it to attract the pursuit of the envoys of the Divine Will, but thanks to Jiang Air's abilities we easily escaped. Later I spent a week learning the language here, then took 200,000 yen to the casino. After bankrupting 4 casinos in a row, I casually eliminated a few small gangs that were looking for trouble. In the end I won back 940 million yen and, using a fake identity forged by Jiang Air, established several logistics companies. These logistics companies spread across most of Japan, from modern metropolises to remote rural towns. My people are everywhere, ostensibly engaged in logistics work, but through the hidden cameras attached to them and the vehicles, combined with Jiang Air's abilities, I can have my eyes and ears spread across most of Japan. Unfortunately, even after achieving this, I still haven't found any of you. About half a year ago, I realized this method wasn't working, so I shifted my focus here. And Qingyu adjusted his glasses and continued. According to the intelligence I've gathered, the Pure Land is more like an observer suspended above the mortal world. If I'm not mistaken, it hides the deepest secrets of this country. If I can uncover them, I might be able to find you. Thus, I began a scheme that lasted for half a year. Once Qingyu finished recounting all his plans and arrangements, Chao Yuan fell silent. He looked at Qingyu with a hint of helplessness in his eyes. We are all human. Why can the gap be so vast? The brain is truly a wonderful thing, but unfortunately mine isn't functioning well. Chao Yuan sighed. And Qingyu picked out the last piece of bone debris and began to carefully stitch up his wound. However, before he could finish stitching, Chao Yuan's wound had basically healed on its own. From the outside, there were almost no signs of injury. You also have accelerated regeneration? And Qingyu asked in surprise. Chao Yuan shook his head. I don't know. Although my injury recovery speed was relatively fast before, it didn't seem to be this fast. I always feel like something changed in me since that incident 2 years ago. And Qingyu raised an eyebrow, his gaze subtly fixed on Chao Yuan's brain. He licked his lips slightly and tentatively asked, how about this? Let me dissect you and then I'll tell you what happened? Chao Yuan twitched the corner of his mouth. I don't have a habit of being a guinea pig. How boring. And Qingyu shrugged. At that moment Chao Yuan seemed to remember something. Qi is here too. What? And Qingyu was taken aback and quickly regained his composure. Where is he? I don't know the exact location, but half a month ago, an envoy of the Divine Will came to extract information using his photo. At that time he should have just landed and an envoy went to find him. Chao Yuan paused and continued, but aside from me, there were no other intruders in the prison area, so he should not have been captured. He's Lin Qiyi, it shouldn't be that easy to catch him. And Qingyu said with a smile. Chao Yuan looked at him with a hint of melancholy. And Qingyu also realized he had misspoken, cleared his throat and moved past the topic. Besides him, is there anyone else? Yes, the envoy of the Divine Will showed me a total of 5 photos. Chao Yuan recalled. The first one was Fatty, the second and third were you and Zhang Er, the fourth was someone I had never seen before and the fifth was Lin Qiyi. And Qingyu's eyes narrowed slightly. If these photos are arranged in chronological order after you, the next to land would be Fatty followed by me and Zhang Er a year and a half ago. But why is there a stranger? Could there be others like us? Not quite. Chao Yuan shook his head firmly. I wasn't the first to land, Fatty was the first. When I was just captured here they showed me Fatty's photo to ask me questions. The correct order should be Fatty, me, you and Zhang Er, the stranger, and then Lin Qiyi. So that means Jialon and Xin Qingzhu haven't landed yet? And Qingyu pondered for a moment and dismissed that idea. Not necessarily. Not being captured by the envoys of the Divine Will doesn't mean they haven't come. To be honest, I'm a bit curious. Chao Yuan couldn't help but speak. If the first was Fatty, then how did he, with his not-so-bright mind, survive here and perfectly avoid the pursuit of the envoys of the Divine Will? And Qingyu thought for a long time and also had no answer. Regardless, you should rest well here. With your current recovery ability, you should be able to move freely within a week at most. And Qingyu put away the scalpel and said, And you? Are you going to find Qiyi and the others? No, I'm staying here. And Qingyu shook his head. Since Qiyi is here, he will eventually make a big commotion. I just need to quietly wait for him to appear. The Pure Land hides the secrets of this country and I need time to decipher them. I hope that by the time we meet I will have fully grasped the intelligence of this country. However, once you recover I can send you down to find them first. As long as you wear the communication earpiece, Zhang Er can contact you at any time. Chao Yuan thought for a moment and nodded firmly. Okay. Chapter 683, The Wind Festival Family. Somewhere in Tokyo. A few paper cranes flew out from the alley, quickly gathering and folding in the corner, gradually transforming into human form. Cough, cough, cough. Yuzuriha Kurosawa weakly leaned against the wall, bending over as he coughed violently, each cough bringing forth dark blood that splattered onto the ground beneath him. His complexion was extremely pale. Fighting alone against 4 oracles, the injuries he sustained were far worse than they appeared. The other wounds were manageable, but the main issue was the plague that had left destructive diseases on him. These injuries were even more terrifying than mere flesh wounds. After coughing for a long time, he staggered to his feet, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and slowly walked toward the end of the alley, his eyes filled with determination. At the end of the alley on the other side of the corner, a tall, slender boy dressed in a deep blue surgical gown stood under a streetlight, his snow-white hair cascading down to the ground. His star-shaped eyes curiously surveyed his surroundings, filled with wonder at everything. This child is taller than I imagined. Yuzuriha Kurosawa quietly observed him, thinking to himself, but upon seeing the boy's thin and pale body, a flicker of guilt crossed his eyes. This was his child whom he had desperately searched for over 13 years, the brother of Yuzuriha, now Yuzuriha Takashiro. He had waited for this moment for 13 years. Now he stood right in front of him. Yuzuriha Kurosawa's heart raced. He smiled, unable to resist the urge to approach and greet him, wanting to say, "Hey kid, I'm your dad, come home with me." But just as he took a step forward, he halted mid-motion. He hesitated. To him, Yuzuriha Takashiro was the child he had been searching for 13 years. But to Yuzuriha Takashiro, he was a stranger who had abandoned him in the Pure Land, and had been tormented for 13 years. If he rashly approached and told him he was his father, would he even come with him? Unlikely. In fact, his identity as a father might even provoke disgust or hatred from the boy. At that moment, Yuzuriha Kurosawa's mind became a mess. Guilt and self-reproach tormented his soul, and he began to question whether he even had the right to call himself a father to Yuzuriha Takashiro. Thus he placed his hand on the hilt of his sword. "Who's there?" Yuzuriha Takashiro slightly turned his head, looking toward the alley where Yuzuriha Kurosawa was hiding, his eyes narrowing slightly. After a moment, a figure slowly emerged from within. It was a middle-aged man dressed in a clean, neat sequined suit, with a wilted rose tucked into his waist. Among the older men, he was relatively handsome. He smiled as he walked toward Yuzuriha Takashiro and came to a stop in front of him. Yuzuriha Takashiro looked at this inexplicable uncle, frowning slightly. "Who are you?" "Let me introduce myself." The uncle elegantly bowed slightly, looking into Yuzuriha Takashiro's eyes with a smile. "I am Japan's #1 host, Kayasuke." "Host?" Yuzuriha Takashiro's eyes filled with confusion. "What is that?" "It's a profession where one chats and drinks with guests, helping them solve their troubles." "You can help people solve their troubles?" Yuzuriha Takashiro was taken aback, a hint of joy appearing on his face. "Then do you know where Akihabara is? Can you take me there?" Kayasuke was momentarily stunned, but after a moment his smile grew even brighter. "Of course, I would be happy to serve you." A smile appeared on Yuzuriha Takashiro's pale face. Just as he was about to say something, he suddenly paused. "Hey uncle." "What is it?" Yuzuriha Takashiro extended his hand and pointed at the void above Kayasuke's head. "Your blood gauge seems to be running low." "Baka." Lin Chia, Amamiya Haruki, and Yuzuriha now stood nervously by the window, watching the sky outside gradually turn pale, their brows tightly furrowed, their eyes filled with worry. Ding! Amamiya Haruki's phone screen lit up, and a text message ringtone echoed in the room. Amamiya Haruki picked up the phone, glanced at the message and let out a long sigh. "How is it? How's my dad?" Yuzuriha now asked anxiously. "Don't worry, he's fine. He has already found your brother," Amamiya Haruki replied. "However, he needs to take your brother to a few places first, so we don't know when he'll be back." "Ah." Yuzuriha now plopped down on the edge of the bed, rubbing her tense little face, finally relaxing, her lips involuntarily curling up. "Dad succeeded." She picked up a pillow beside her and excitedly rolled around on the bed, tears welling up in the corners of her eyes. Lin Chia turned to Amamiya Haruki. "What about the Haiketsu blade? What did he say?" "He said to leave the Mizuto there for now, but the other 3 blades can be taken back." "The Kuragawa is a gift for you," Amamiya Haruki answered. Lin Chia clicked his tongue. "This uncle, why is he not keeping his word? He promised to give him both the Kuragawa and Mizuto after the job was done, but now he's holding one back. Forget it, after all, he's currently a wanted criminal at the extreme evil level. It's normal to keep one Haiketsu blade for self-defense." Lin Chia picked up the chalk prepared nearby and began to draw a summoning magic circle on the ground, pouring his mental energy into it. After a moment, Yubing, Senju, and Kuragawa quietly lay on the ground. But how did he manage to do it? Amamiya Haruki still couldn't understand. Did he really use these 4 blades to cut through the Pure Land? "I don't know. We'll just have to ask him personally when he gets back." "True, but we still don't know when he'll be back." Just as the two were chatting, dozens of cars sped down the street from afar, neatly stopping in front of the Black Killer's building. The car doors opened and figures dressed in black kimonos stepped out, cherry blossoms fluttering from their garments. They wore wooden clogs and walked solemnly to the base of the Black Killers, each carrying a forged blade, numbering around 100. As soon as they appeared, a large number of Black Killers members rushed out from the building, completely surrounding them, wielding various weapons, their expressions somewhat unfriendly. The two factions stood in a standoff. Amamiya Haruki said in surprise, "Another wave of gangsters?" Lin Chia looked down at the figures stepping out of the cars, feeling that their black kimonos with cherry blossom patterns looked somewhat familiar. "Let's go down and take a look." Lin Chia seemed to have thought of something and said to Amamiya Haruki and Yuzuru Hanao. The three quickly left the room and took the elevator down to the first floor. First floor of the Black Killers. Among those dressed in black kimonos with cherry blossom patterns, a man wearing gold-rimmed glasses slowly stepped forward. He had twice as many cherry blossoms on his clothing compared to the other members, about 30 petals. He walked up to the Black Killers and slowly spoke. "From the Wind Festival family in Tokyo, I am Takeya Kazuki, seeking an audience with the leader of the Black Killers." Chapter 684. The Request of the Fingji Family. The members of the Black Kill group continued to surround them, their expressions fierce and intimidating, seemingly unwilling to respond at all. Fingji Takuya's mouth twitched slightly. Thinking they hadn't heard him clearly, he cleared his throat and raised his voice to repeat. "Fingji family from Tokyo, Fingji Takuya, requesting to see the leader of the Black Kill group." The members of the Black Kill group remained unmoved. "Fingji Takuya. Come on, whether you let me see him or not, at least say something. With this group of people surrounding us and not uttering a word, what exactly do you want to do?" Just as Fingji Takuya was feeling lost in the wind, Shin Qingzhu, who had been quietly hiding in the lobby on the first floor, turned around and saw Lin Chia and the others finally coming out of the elevator, letting out a slight sigh of relief. "What's going on?" Lin Chia asked, puzzled. "I don't know either. I've been waiting for you." Shin Qingzhu leaned closer to Lin Chia's ear and whispered, "If you don't come down to help me translate soon, they might start fighting outside." Lin Chia glanced at the sweating Fingji Takuya outside and nodded. "Let's go meet them." Shin Qingzhu, draped in a flowing cloud-patterned kimono, walked out of the building at a leisurely pace, followed by several handsome subordinates. Her calm eyes fixed on Fingji Takuya, revealing a subtle pressure. Seeing her kimono, Fingji Takuya's eyes lit up, realizing the main person had arrived, and he politely spoke. "I am Fingji Takuya from the Fingji family, here to meet the leader of the Black Kill group." Shin Qingzhu replied indifferently, "What's the matter?" "We came from Tokyo this time to negotiate for a ransom," Fingji Takuya said slowly. "Ransom?" Shin Qingzhu was slightly taken aback upon hearing Lin Chia's translation. Fingji Takuya turned around and signaled to his subordinates, who retrieved 3 leather cases from the car, placing them on the ground and opening them one by one, revealing them to be filled with stacks of yen, totaling nearly 10 million. "We are here to ransom Fingji Mingzi's daughter Yuzuna," Fingji Takuya continued. "The Fingji family has been secretly searching for Yuzuna for years and finally found her whereabouts in Yokohama. We intended to bring her back to the Fingji family, but upon arriving in Yokohama, we discovered she had already left for Osaka. After investigating, we received reliable information confirming that she was taken by the Black Kill group. Knowing that Kansai is the Black Kill group's base, we specifically brought 10 million yen to negotiate for Yuzuna's return as a show of sincerity." Lin Chia and the others turned to look at Yuzuna, who stood at the back looking confused. "Why are you looking for her?" Lin Chia frowned and asked. Fingji Takuya hesitated for a moment before answering honestly. "Our family's elder, Yuzuna's grandfather, is gravely ill and has little time left, so he wishes to see his granddaughter one last time before he passes. Moreover, among the 3 heirs of the Fingji family, the eldest, Fingji Mingzi, has already passed away. The second daughter, Fingji Kimi's child, was stillborn, and she subsequently went insane. The eldest son, Fingji Chong, also died unexpectedly. Among the younger generation, only Yuzuna is still alive, and we hope she can return to inherit the position of the young master." Lin Chia's expression became intriguing. "Now they are all surnamed Yuzuna, and you expect her to return to inherit your Fingji family's assets? How desperate is the Fingji family for people right now?" However, based on the information Lin Chia received from Han Chuan, the Fingji family had indeed been searching for Yuzuna for a long time, only to be intercepted by the Han Chuan family, who took her directly to Osaka, leaving them empty-handed in the end. Moreover, judging by the sincerity of their ransom offer, It didn't seem like a deception. Lin Chia turned to Yuzuna, waiting for her response. After all, this was a family matter between the Yuzuna and Fengji families, and he, as an outsider, shouldn't interfere. He believed that with Yuzuna's intelligence she would have her own thoughts on the matter. Grandpa. Yuzuna stood there in a daze, murmuring to herself. Since her birth, she had lived in Yokohama with her mother and had never been to Tokyo, so she had never met this so-called grandfather. To be honest, she felt no emotional connection to him. She initially wanted to refuse outright, but after thinking for a long time she still didn't speak. I need to think about it for a while, Yuzuna said seriously, holding on to her doll Chizuru as she looked at Fungji Takuya. At this moment, Fungji Takuya also noticed the cute little girl and realized she was the Yuzuna he had been searching for. Hearing her response, he fell silent for a moment and looked at Shin Qingzhu, who was standing nearby. From his perspective, Yuzuna had been taken by the leader, and whether to let her go depended on the leader's opinion. If she is willing to go with you, I have no objections, Shin Qingzhu said, mimicking Lin Chia's tone. Fungji Takuya nodded. All right, we will stay in Osaka for the time being. Here's my phone number. If you come to a decision, just call me. Fungji Takuya took out a business card from his pocket and handed it to the nearest member of the Black Kill group, who then delivered it to Yuzuna. Afterward, the Fungji family members returned to their car and slowly drove away from the building under the watchful eyes of the Black Kill group. Back in the room, Yuzuna sat alone on the edge of the bed, staring at the business card on her lap, lost in thought. Do you want to go? Lin Chia walked over and asked her. I don't want to, Yuzuna shook her head. Then you don't have to go, no one can force you now. But that's a Yakuza family where my mom grew up. It's her home and her father, Yuzuna said, lowering her head. I mean, if one day my dad is also lying in a hospital bed and I can't see him one last time, he would be very sad, right? Lin Chia didn't respond. And the most important thing isn't this. Yuzuna looked up at Lin Chia, speaking earnestly. I want to be the young master of the Fengji family. What? Lin Chia was taken aback. He had originally thought that the position of young master wouldn't hold much appeal for Yuzuna. Even if she returned, it would be for the sake of the elder. But Yuzuna's current statement truly left him puzzled. Think about it. Now that Dad has saved my brother, when they come back, they will definitely need a home to live in, right? Yuzuna said seriously. This is the Black Kill Group's building. We can't stay here forever. If we buy a house somewhere else, it will cost a lot of money. Dad is getting older and my brother is not in good health. I'm not old enough to work yet. We can't come up with that much money. Buy vitamins and supplements. And I want to take my brother out to play, buy him nice clothes, get him the best snacks and send him to the best school. All of this costs a lot of money. As long as I can become the head of the Fengji family, I can have a lot of money. I can give them the best life, ensuring our family is well fed and clothed, and I can give you, Chia, a lot of pocket money, making you the best host in Japan. So, I need this young master identity to take care of my family. Lin Chia stared blankly at Yuzuna's small yet serious face, unable to regain his senses for a long time. Chapter 685. Sensabio. In the end, Yuzuriha decided to follow Kazumatsuri Takuya back to Tokyo. Before leaving, Yuzuriha specifically invited Lin Chia and Amamiya Haruki to return with her, but Lin Chia still needed to repair the Janbai, so he naturally did not leave with her, and Amamiya Haruki was in the same situation. Although Lin Chia felt a bit worried about letting Yuzuriha go to Tokyo alone, he remembered that she was now the master of the Chizuru sword and had Grandma Tsuru by her side, which was enough to handle most situations, so he felt relieved. Early the next morning, the Kazumatsuri family's convoy arrived again at the Black Kill Group's building. Yuzuriha put on her old black sakura kimono again, tying her hair up with a light pink sakura hairpin. With the snow-white Chizuru at her waist, she stood before the Kazumatsuri family and deeply bowed to Lin Chia and the others. Lin Chia looked behind her at the Kazumatsuri family members who followed suit in bowing, and he couldn't help but feel a bit emotional. The once weak girl hiding in a Yokohama shipping container had now transformed into a strong individual capable of standing on her own. She had always been smart. What she lacked was merely some honing and experience. Brother Chia, when you finish your business, you must come to Tokyo to find me. Yuzuriha waved her hand reluctantly at Lin Chia, turned and got into the back seat of the car. Kazumatsuri Takuya helped her close the door and then entered from the other side. Dozens of cars started simultaneously, and amidst the humming of engines, they gradually disappeared from everyone's sight. Once the members of the Black Kill group dispersed, Shin Qingzhu walked up to Lin Jie and asked, "What are your plans next?" Lin Jie glanced at Amamiya Haruki beside him and said to Shin Qingzhu, "I need to find someone to repair my sword. I might have to go on a long trip. Do you want to come with me?" Shin Qingzhu hesitated for a moment and shook her head. "The Black Kill group still needs me to hold down the fort, and I've already instructed them to look for people across the Kansai region based on the images. If there's any news, I can contact them quickly." Lin Jie didn't press the issue. After all, Shin Qingzhu's position as the group leader was indeed very useful. If they recklessly gave that up, it would be a loss for them. "Have you kept your phone safe? If you find out about anyone else, remember to call me." Lin Jie took out an old flip phone from his pocket and waved it at Shin Qingzhu. This phone was obtained by Yuzuriha from the Kazumitsuri family. Both the phone itself and the SIM card belonged to someone else. Moreover, since it wasn't a smartphone, it could evade the tracking of the oracles and allow for remote communication. Lin Jie and Amamiya Haruki left the Black Kill group building, standing at the bottom of the stairs, looking at the city before them, and let out a long sigh. Where to next? Lin Jie turned to Amamiya Haruki. "To Shinsaibashi." "The swordsmith is in Shinsaibashi?" "No, I should be in Shinsaibashi." Noticing Lin Jie's puzzled expression, Amamiya Haruki patiently explained, "We agreed earlier that you would go to the fishing boat tea house in Dotonbori, Osaka, and place a 50-yen coin in the bonsai on the left side as you enter. Only then will I appear." Lin Jie opened his mouth in confusion. "But aren't you right next to me now? Why do I still have to go to Shinsaibashi to find you?" "This is an exception," Amamiya Haruki said seriously. "If it weren't for the fact that I happened to go to that host club and became a host with you, we shouldn't have met here. I hope you can forget that I was a host. Of course, I will also forget that you were a host." Lin Jie looked at him strangely, feeling an odd sense of déjà vu, as if he was hearing, "Let's break up and pretend nothing happened before. You can pursue me again," from Amamiya Haruki. It seemed that Amamiya Haruki was trying very hard to cover up that dark history of being a host. Lin Jie's expression became subtle. "All right then, let's go to Shinsaibashi first." Half an hour later, the two arrived at Shinsaibashi by car. As soon as Amamiya Haruki got out, he left on his own, saying he needed to prepare. While Lin Jie internally complained, he followed the agreement and placed a 50-yen coin in the bonsai at the fishing boat tea house, then sat down to wait. A few minutes later, a handsome young man dressed in a black kimono and wooden sandals walked in confidently, his calm gaze sweeping over the tea house before he sat down slowly across from Lin Jie. "You are 2 days late compared to the agreed time," he said calmly. Lin Jie's lips curled slightly and he raised his voice a bit. "I sincerely apologize, Mr. Amamiya, rising star of the host world, Haruki, from the Black Wutong Club in Dotonbori, Osaka." Amamiya Haruki. His lips twitched violently as he grabbed Lin Jie's wrist and lowered his voice. "What are you talking about? Come on, let's go outside." Amamiya Haruki pulled him out under the strange gazes of many guests. "Weren't we supposed to not mention this?" "Amamiya," Lin Jie said leisurely, "one should never forget their roots. After all, we made quite a bit of money at Black Wutong. How can you not even acknowledge your own identity?" Amamiya Haruki took a deep breath. "Fine, just wait. One day when I get the chance, I will expose your past as a host in front of others. You do as you wish." Amamiya Haruki snorted coldly and pulled out an ancient red token from his pocket, tossing it to Lin Jie. "What is this?" "A token to find the swordsmith. Without this, you won't even find his doorstep." Lin Jie held the token in his palm, examining it for a moment before realizing, "So, you came back just to get this? Otherwise, do you really think I would be so bored?" Amamiya Haruki shot him a glance. "I couldn't take such an important thing with me while being a host, so I kept it here. It seems I misunderstood you." Lin Jie put the token away. "So where exactly is the swordsmith?" "In Hokkaido." Amamiya Haruki paused before continuing. "I heard that things have been a bit unsettled in Hokkaido recently." "Unsettled?" Lin Jie was taken aback for a moment, then the corners of his mouth slightly lifted as he patted the black rope at his waist and slowly said, "What I like most is an unsettled place." Chapter 686. The Plan of Great Xia. The Great Xia. In the capital city, headquarters of the Night Watchman. A figure draped in a dark red cloak walked through the long corridor and finally stood before a closed door. He reached out and lightly knocked on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Come in. He pushed the door open and stepped inside. Behind the door was a spacious and bright office. He had been here many times before, but the person sitting at the desk was no longer the previous Commander Yi Fan of the Night Watchman. Instead, it was a young and composed face. Former member of the Blue Rain Special Team, former deputy captain of Team 136 stationed in Songnan City, Wu Xiangnan, reporting for duty. He stood straight and spoke seriously. Suiqing, who was buried in paperwork behind the desk, looked up. Upon seeing Wu Xiangnan standing before him, a smile appeared on his lips. You finally made it. Have a seat. Wu Xiangnan sat down in the chair opposite the desk. I've reviewed your file. You've been transferred from Team 136 to the Special Intelligence Department for almost 3 years now, right? Suiqing stood up and poured a glass of water for Wu Xiangnan, handing it to him. How have you been these past 3 years? Wu Xiangnan was taken aback and spoke with some resignation. After being transferred to the Japan Investigation Team in the Special Intelligence Department, my daily work has been to cooperate with other colleagues to investigate, speculate, and analyze the situation in the Japanese divine realm Takamagara. Based on my previous experiences in the Blue Rain Team, combined with the research from the Japan Investigation Team, I can basically deduce the location of Takamagara. However, I still have no clue on how to enter. I'm not talking about work. Suiqing shook his head. I mean, have you moved on from what happened with the Blue Rain Team back then? Wu Xiangnan's body trembled slightly and he lowered his head in silence. After a long while he forced a bitter smile and shook his head slightly. Such things are not so easily let go. If anything, the turmoil in my heart has deepened. For the past 3 years I've been recalling the scenes from Takamagara. Every time I remember, I think of the moments when they fell in battle there. These images are deeply etched in my mind, replaying endlessly over the past 3 years. Each time I question myself. Why was I the only one who survived? Wu Xiangnan's fists clenched unconsciously. Suiqing silently observed him for a long time before sitting back down. If you were given the chance to go to Japan again, would you be willing? Go again. Wu Xiangnan looked up in shock as if he had thought of something. His eyes brightened slightly. Are we going to take action against Takamagara? Suiqing nodded. More than 2 years ago, Egypt's attack on the Great Xia failed. The 9 Pillars God was damaged, and the national fortune was cut by 30%, which can be said to have greatly reduced their strength. At the same time, Greece's Olympus was severely impacted by the return of the goddess of night, and with the constant harassment from the Great Xia Sword Immortal over the past 2 years, the power of these ancient divine nations is gradually weakening. The rise of the Great Xia has made these ancient divine nations feel an unprecedented threat, accelerating their alliance. News from the Shangye Society indicates that these divine nations have reached a preliminary unity and will soon take action against the Great Xia. Wu Xiangnan frowned. From Suiqing's brief words he could already sense the impending crisis. Among these divine nations, Takamagara is the closest to the Great Xia. Once a full-scale divine war breaks out, they will undoubtedly become a thorn in our throat. Although their strength is lacking compared to the other ancient divine nations, they can still pose a significant threat to the Great Xia at a critical moment. Suiqing lightly tapped the table with his fingers, his eyes narrowing slightly, a glint of killing intent flashing in his deep gaze. Therefore, we must resolve this internal threat before the full-scale divine war begins. Wu Xiangnan nodded thoughtfully. But Takamagara is, after all, a divine nation home to many Japanese deities. How do we deal with it? You don't need to worry about that, Suiqing replied slowly. Our primary task now is to find a way to enter Takamagara and destroy the human circle created by the Japanese gods, fundamentally erasing their source of faith. I understand. Wu Xiangnan realized Suiqing's intention for sending him to Japan. As a former member of the Blue Rain Team who has personally been to Japan and worked in the Japan Investigation Team for 3 years, I am the most familiar with the situation there in the entire Great Xia. Wu Xiangnan paused, speaking uncertainly. However, even if I find the entrance to Takamagara and the location of the human circle, I can't destroy the human circle by myself. Don't worry, the task of destroying the human circle will not be your responsibility. It will be handled by another organization in the mist. They are professionals when it comes to dealing with divine nations and the human circle. Suiqing smiled and said, your task is to meet up with them in the mist and guide them to the entrance of Takamagara and the human circle. The rest will be taken care of by them. No problem. Wu Xiangnan nodded firmly without hesitation. As long as I can destroy Takamagara and avenge them, I can do anything. Suiqing opened a drawer and took out a silver insignia, handing it to Wu Xiangnan. You should be familiar with this, right? Wu Xiangnan looked at the insignia, a nostalgic expression appearing in his eyes. This is the forbidden item we used when the Blue Rain team was navigating through the mist back then. Exactly. However, 2 years ago when the 5th special team left, they took 7 of them and now only this last one remains. It's yours now. Wu Xiangnan nodded and solemnly accepted the insignia. Speaking of the 5th special team, there's one more thing. Suiqing stood up and took a large map from the bookshelf behind him, spreading it out on the desk. After the 5th special team went missing 2 years ago, we have been searching for their whereabouts. Over the past 2 years we have dispatched numerous action teams to search the surrounding seas, but we still haven't found any trace of them. Therefore we speculate that they may have been swept away by ocean currents to a farther location. The map on the desk was filled with lines and arrows, simulating the flow directions of all the ocean currents in that area. Far from the area where they went missing, several circles were drawn in red ink. These are the places we speculate they may have been carried to by the ocean currents. Wu Xiangnan glanced at the map, his brows slightly furrowing. More than 700 kilometers? That's quite a distance. No one can hold their breath for that long, right? Chapter 687. The Drift of Jelon. Suiqing raised an eyebrow. Perhaps they don't need to hold their breath? Wu Xiangnan was stunned in place. If they don't breathe, how can they survive? Maybe you'll understand when you meet someone. As Suiqing finished speaking, the office door was pushed open again, and a figure draped in a deep blue Han robe slowly walked in. A red cord tied her long black hair, which hung down her back, and she held a slender black box in her hand, the contents of which were unknown. This is... Wu Xiangnan looked at the girl in front of him, somewhat confused. Member of the 5th Special Team Jelon. Suiqing smiled and said. 2 months ago she landed on the coast of the eastern sea of Daxia. She startled the night watchman stationed there, and after verifying her identity, she made her way here. Sorry for the trouble, Jelon said, holding the black box, looking a bit apologetic. How could this be a trouble? If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have known what happened to the 5th Special Team that day. Suiqing shook his head. According to Jelon's description, the attackers might be from the future, the 004 Special Team, led by the captain of the masked team Wang Mian. However, we have already discussed this matter with him and he is unaware of it. If that person really stopped the time of the 5th Special Team members, all their physiological responses would pause, and they wouldn't need to breathe in the currents, thus avoiding any life-threatening danger. This is also why we dared to place our guess about their location hundreds of kilometers away. Upon hearing this explanation, Wu Xiangnan seemed to ponder. Jelon couldn't help but ask, Commander Zhua, is it true that you found their location? Her eyes were filled with urgency and excitement. More than 2 years ago, after that white-haired figure sent her flying in the misty sea, she fell into an unfamiliar ocean. Jelon's own time had stopped, not changing with the passage of external time, so she didn't fall into a time-stopped state like the other team members. Perhaps this was also why that person deliberately scattered her from the other team members. Fortunately, she had the protection of immortal. So even without breathing or eating underwater, she wouldn't face life-threatening danger. She drifted in the sea for over 10 days before finally stepping onto an island. In the mist, she couldn't discern direction and could only use the limited materials on the island to make a small boat, drifting alone in the fog. And this drift lasted for 2 years. During these 2 years she had set foot on countless islands and seas, slaying countless mysteries, alone in the mist, and was defeated by even more powerful mysteries, falling back into the sea. She had once found a continent, but it was not Daxia. It was a strange land that had already become a ruin. The documents she found there were all written in strange characters resembling crawling insects. Jialan felt these characters were somewhat familiar because during the Han Dynasty she had seen a letter sent from a small country in a remote area in the palace, which seemed to use this kind of writing. If she remembered correctly, that country was called Weiman Chaoxian. Using the map she had seen during the Han Dynasty, Jialan tried hard to recall the location of this small country, determined a direction and set sail again. Finally, 2 months ago she entered the territory of Daxia. For her, loneliness and confusion were not the most terrifying things. She had once lain alone in a coffin for 2,000 years. Compared to that, 2 years were just a fleeting moment. But she felt an unprecedented torment. Perhaps it was because the people she cared about were uncertain of their fate, and the urgency and worry in her heart felt so small in the vast mist. She didn't know how many oars she had broken, how many sails she had ruined, or how many boats she had worn out, all just to return to his side faster, but reality left her disappointed and desperate time and again. No one knew how many times she had cried alone on the boat over the past 2 years, how many times she had helplessly roared at the powerful mysteries, and how many times she had sunk into the deep sea, yearning for the arrival of reunion in the endless darkness. After returning to Daxia, she discovered that Lin Qier and the others had not returned, and even the night watchmen were searching for their whereabouts. Suiqing assured her that they would definitely find them, so she stayed behind, waiting for news. And today Suiqing told her that he might have found their whereabouts. Although we can't be completely sure yet, it's highly probable that they drifted near Japan along the current, Suiqing replied. It's a bit risky for Wu Xiangnan to go to Japan alone, so I want you to. I'll go. Before Suiqing could finish, Jialan interjected firmly, I must go. Seeing Jialan so determined, Suiqing didn't continue but nodded. Then this time the two of you will act together. Once you reach near Japan, people from the S73 will contact you. Your task is to find Takamagara and locate the human circle. And bring back the 5th special team. After saying this, Suiqing thought for a moment and continued. If you find them, remember not to involve them in this vortex. This matter involves conflicts between divine nations, and it's not something a newly promoted special team can meddle in. Let them return directly to report. Understood. Jialan could hardly wait to set off. But Commander Zhua, Wu Xiangnan hesitated to speak, there's only one token. How can the two of us navigate through the mist? Suiqing glanced at Jialan and smiled. Don't worry, she doesn't need such things. Hokkaido. 2 figures stood beside the Shinkansen, gazing at the city before them and the vast blue ocean in the distance, taking a deep breath. The environment here is quite nice, Lin Qier remarked. Yes, Ayumi Haruhiko nodded slightly. Hokkaido is inherently a beautiful and tranquil place, where you can quietly contemplate life. Boom. Before Ayumi Haruhiko could finish, a thunderous explosion erupted from afar, shaking the ground violently, and thick smoke rose from the distance. Ayumi Haruhiko's expression froze. Lin Qier looked at him with a strange expression. What were you going to quietly contemplate? Survival or death? I've said it before, Hokkaido hasn't been peaceful lately. It wasn't like this before, Ayumi Haruhiko shrugged. The explosion seems to be at a shrine. Lin Qier glanced from afar. It looks quite large. That has nothing to do with us. Our goal is to repair the sword, not to join the commotion, Ayumi Haruhiko said calmly. Let's go grab a taxi. Just as Lin Qier was about to step forward, he suddenly seemed to sense something and turned to look at the glass sliding door behind him, which clearly reflected their 2 figures. What's wrong? Ayumi Haruhiko asked. I don't know, Lin Qier replied uncertainly. I think I just saw a shadow flash by. Ayumi Haruhiko looked around but didn't see anyone unusual. It seems there's no one else here. Let's go grab a taxi. Chapter 688. The Swordsmith. When the 2 of them got out of the car, they had already arrived at a remote village. The surroundings were desolate, with only a few small houses scattered about, and there wasn't a single passerby in sight. Is it really this remote? Lin Qier asked in surprise. His personality is somewhat reclusive. He doesn't like to live in crowded places, Yukigami Haruai said as she led the way forward. We got out here because the driver only dared to take us this far. Beyond this point it's just barren mountains and graveyards. We still have to walk a bit further into the mountains. What exactly is the background of this swordsmith? According to legend, when the great deity of the nation, the Okinanushi, commissioned the creation of 9 cursed blades, he invited the most skilled swordsmith from the human world, Kuyoki Yuki, to assist the few national deities who excelled in this craft. After Kuyoki Yuki collaborated with the other deities to forge the 9 cursed blades, he believed it to be the most stunning work of his life. He then requested the Okinanushi to allow him to become the soul of the last blade, hoping to exist eternally with the cursed blades in this form, completely merging with his creation. Later, the Okinanushi granted his request. After Kuyoki Yuki infused the first 8 blades with their souls, he pierced his own heart with the 9th blade, plunging into the lava below. Through a certain ritual, he merged his soul with the blade, ultimately becoming the soul of the 9th blade. Lin Chia pondered. So, the creator of the cursed blades became the soul of the 9th blade, which is why the 9th blade has the power to repair the other cursed blades? Exactly, but this is only theoretical. As the blade's soul, he cannot personally forge or repair the other 8 blades. Therefore, each successor of the 9th blade is a skilled craftsman. Yukigami Hirai continued. The swordsmith we are looking for is the current master of the 9th cursed blade. But didn't you say the cursed blades can't be broken? Why would they need repairs? You've asked a good question, Yukigami Hirai sighed helplessly. Precisely because the cursed blades themselves are indestructible, the 9th blade's ability to repair them seems particularly redundant. Up until now, it has hardly been used, and since this blade itself has no offensive capabilities, this is also why the 9th blade has gradually faded from the view of the Pure Land. Unless there are some extremely special circumstances that cause damage to the soul of the cursed blade, only then would someone seek out the master of the 9th blade to request repairs. Then how did you find him? My master brought me here to find him years ago. I see. Lin Chia followed Yukigami Hirai as they climbed the mountain step by step. The sky in the distance gradually darkened, and the deep forest in the mountains became increasingly black. The occasional abandoned graves they passed by also took on a sinister air. Of course, such an environment would have no effect on Lin Chia and Yukigami Hirai. Even if something unclean were to jump out, they wouldn't mind drawing their swords and acting as a ghost hunting team. The two walked along the mountain path for quite a while, passing by one graveyard after another. When the tokens at their waists began to glow faintly, they finally saw a few glimmers of light deep within the forest ahead. It was a small traditional Japanese house, not small in size, but it looked quite aged. The deep gray exterior walls surrounded the entire house, covered in dense cobwebs and cracks. A few faint lights flickered from within the walls, drifting in the pitch-black night sky, adding an inexplicable sense of eeriness against the backdrop of the surrounding deep forest. This place certainly didn't seem like a normal person's residence. Lin Chia and Yukigami Hirai reached the door and the latter gently knocked. After a moment, the door slowly opened. A burly figure wrapped in black cloth stood behind the door, with deep-set eyes and a gaunt, zombie-like appearance. A gray long sword hung at his waist. The moment Lin Chia saw his face, he thought a resident from one of the nearby graveyards had crawled out to open the door for them. His spiritual energy swept over the figure, confirming that he was indeed alive, and he let out a slight sigh of relief. The zombie-like man. No, the person's dead fish-like eyes scanned Lin Chia and Yukigami Hirai, finally lingering on Hirai for a moment before his hand relaxed on the sword hilt. "It's you," he rasped. "Knocking on my door in the middle of the night. I thought I was seeing ghosts." Lin Chia. Probably even if a ghost knocked on the door, it would be the ghost that got scared, right? Anyway, you don't sleep at night, so it shouldn't be considered a disturbance, right? Yukigami Hirai raised an eyebrow. "Come in, it's pitch black outside, quite frightening." The man opened the door, stepping aside to let them in. He then closed the door behind them and locked it with a fist-sized iron lock before turning to walk into the house. He led them through a dimly lit wooden corridor, the floorboards creaking under their feet. On either side were dark rooms, covered in dust, seemingly unused for a long time. Lin Chia watched as he led them past the reception room and directly into an open courtyard. The courtyard was filled with heavy tools for forging, and a furnace stood in the center with flames still flickering inside. The man pulled out 2 small stools from somewhere, blew off the dust with his mouth and set them on the ground. "Sit down. Want some tea?" "I don't have any." Lin Chia. "No thanks." Yukigami Hirai casually sat on one of the stools, glancing around. It hasn't changed at all in 4 years. He is the master of the 9th cursed blade Kuyanagi Yashiki. This is my friend Asanagi Chie. Yukigami Hirai briefly introduced them. Lin Chie smiled politely at him. Kuyanagi Yashiki didn't respond, just stared blankly at Yukigami Hirai, his dead fish eyes looking increasingly frightening in their deep black sockets. Do you need something? Yes. Yukigami Hirai turned to Lin Chie. Where's the blade? Lin Chie came back to his senses, took the black box from behind him, placed it on the ground and opened it. Inside lay 2 broken sections of a snow-white long sword, quietly resting there, shimmering with a chilling light in the reflection of the furnace's flames. Before coming, Lin Chie had summoned the white slash in advance and placed it in the box designed for straight swords. Take a look and see if you can repair this blade, Yukigami Hirai said. Kuyanagi Yashiki approached the black box, crouched down and slowly picked up the 2 sections of the long sword. Suddenly, vitality radiated from his dead fish eyes as he carefully examined the blade. After a long while he nodded. No problem, give me 5 days. Hearing his confident tone, Lin Chie was somewhat surprised. It seemed this swordsmith indeed had some skill. Yukigami Hirai didn't seem surprised by this and spoke again. Once it's repaired, could you also imbue it with a blade soul? Kuyanagi Yashiki was taken aback. He stiffly turned his head. Are you joking with me? Chapter 689. Conditions of the Sword Soul. Blade Soul. Gu Yuan Liangshu seemed to be amused by the question. If I could give this blade a soul, what would be the difference between that and forging another Hozuki blade? Isn't that your dream all along? Amamiya Haruki countered. He shook his head. Back then the great national deity used all the resources of the Kuni gods to forge 9 Hozuki blades. Now just because I'm a blacksmith hiding in a mountain valley, you think I can just create a Hozuki blade? What do you take the Hozuki blade for? When the great national deity forged the blades, most of the effort went into crafting the blade body and its special attributes, like the rein of Yubal, the paper crane of Tumbaku, and the long-range projection of Haiso. But you can completely skip that process now. Amamiya Haruki pointed at the 2 segments of Funbai, saying, this blade has already been forged and possesses its own special attributes. In terms of material and ability, it does not belong to the Hozuki blade itself. It only lacks a blade soul. As long as we can give it a blade soul, it will be the 10th Hozuki blade in this world. What do you think a blade soul is? A cabbage? Something you can just give. Guyuan Liangshu spoke seriously. Becoming a blade soul has very strict conditions. First, the soul body must not be separated from its physical form for too long. Once its soul power dissipates, it will no longer be complete. The integrity of the soul body is a necessary condition for becoming a blade soul. Second, the soul body must have possessed great strength in life, able to bear the power of the blade itself. If its soul strength is insufficient, it will be crushed by the blade's power and completely extinguished. Third, the soul body must possess high intelligence and have its own thoughts. Even if the blade master is not present, it should be able to activate the power of the Hozuki blade on its own. Fourth, the soul body must willingly become a Hozuki blade soul. Otherwise, even if it merges with the blade body, the blade master will not be able to harness the blade's power, and it will instead render the Hozuki blade completely useless. Fifth, and this is the most difficult point, the abilities of the soul body must highly coincide with the blade's special attributes, with no rejection phenomenon. If your blade's special attribute is rain, then the blade soul's ability must also relate to rain. After saying all this, he glanced at Amamiya Haruki and then at Lin Chie and slowly spoke. When the 9 Hozuki blades were forged, the Kuni gods invested a lot of effort to gather 8 blade souls from all over Japan. With Master Gyue himself, they barely managed to assemble these 9 blade souls. If I'm not mistaken, the attributes of this blade should be related to space. To give it a blade soul, we first need a soul body that also possesses space attributes, is complete, has great strength, possesses high intelligence, and is willing to become a blade soul. In today's society, it's no longer like the myths and legends. Even if you traverse all of Japan, you won't find such a soul body. This is also why the Hozuki blade cannot be replicated in modern times. So, do you have a soul body that meets these conditions? Amamiya Haruki fell silent. Although he understood the Hozuki blade to some extent, he hadn't expected the conditions for a blade soul to be so harsh. Just as Gu Yuan Liangshu said, such a soul body could not possibly exist in all of Japan, meaning that giving this blade a soul was essentially an impossible task. Lin Chia sighed helplessly. He walked over to Amamiya Haruki, patted his shoulder and comforted him. It's okay. As long as we can fix it, it doesn't matter if it doesn't have a blade soul. Seeing this, Amamiya Haruki could only give up. It's getting late. You two can find a room to rest in. I need to get to work, Gu Yuan Liangshu said as the conversation ended, unhesitatingly issuing a dismissal. He picked up the 2 broken blade segments and walked toward the forging area. Amamiya Haruki stood up from the small stool and walked with Lin Chia toward the back room. Doesn't he need to sleep? Lin Chia glanced at the time and asked. He usually sleeps during the day and forges at night, and he generally only sleeps 4 hours a day, Amamiya Haruki replied, looking back at the sturdy, busy figure. Because he's been here for so long without interacting with others, his personality is a bit unique. Lin Chia nodded, recalling those deeply sunken black eye sockets, and understood. He's a workaholic. If you can't give him a blade soul, then our previous agreement doesn't count, Amamiya Haruki said slowly. Once that blade is fixed, you should go back first. I'll handle that place myself. Lin Chia hadn't forgotten the agreement he made with Amamiya Haruki. If he could give Shanbai a blade soul, he would protect him to a certain place. Now it seemed that since the blade soul couldn't be established, Amamiya Haruki planned to go alone and didn't intend to involve Lin Chia. Lin Chia opened his mouth as if to say something, but after a moment he shook his head. Let's talk about it tomorrow. He and Amamiya Haruki each entered a room and closed the door. The room had no bedding or pillows, only tatami mats and a few blankets. It was unclear how Gu Yuan Liangshu managed to live here. Lin Chia lay on the tatami mat and slowly closed his eyes. The psychiatric hospital of the gods. Dressed in a white coat, Lin Chia walked through the hospital, clearly feeling that it was much livelier than before. In the courtyard, several caregivers were holding freshly washed blankets and bed covers, hanging them on a makeshift rack to dry. Wang Kai was leading a group of little brothers, proudly marching toward the restroom with brooms and mops. The kitchen was ablaze with fire and several enticing aromas wafted out. As Lin Chia walked down the corridor, caregivers occasionally passed by him, politely bowing and greeting him with, "Good evening, Director." It seems that Li Yifei's management skills are indeed impressive, Lin Chia thought to himself. He made his way to the study, where he saw Bragi and Merlin sitting at a small table eating. 8 dishes were laid out in front of them, and there were even 2 jugs of fruit wine, and they were enjoying their meal. Director. Bragi spotted Lin Chia at the door and immediately stood up excitedly, waving his hand. Director, want to join us for a bite? Good evening, Your Excellency, Director, Merlin smiled and said. Lin Chia walked into the study, glanced at another empty chair and asked curiously, "Is it just you two?" "Yeah," Bragi shrugged as he sat back down. Li Yifei and the others originally prepared meals for the person in room 4 as well, but it seems that person doesn't intend to join us for dinner. Merlin nodded, so I told them to deliver the food directly to the room later. Lin Chia walked to the window and looked at room 4 across the second floor, where the door was tightly closed, and sighed deeply.